when you say farewell, is it farewell to somebody you've worked with? So the day he was talking about when Barbara walked in, I was already there. So now you count the years we've worked together. So you can as well say, in the whole world, that's the person I've worked the longest with. For me, that means a lot personally. Colleagues at the New Vision, there are things that I only say to Barbara, I can't say to any one of you. Because of that, you've been together for such a long time, so that when I see Barbara walking, I know the mood she is in, and you know what to say to her at that point and what not to say to her. But Barbara, we want to thank you. Thank you for your dedication, not just to the New Vision, but to the community. You've given us your all. Now I can officially apologize to Patrick and family. We've taken Barbara away from you. Barbara works very long hours. Now I'm talking to people who already know her. She works very long hours, and it's not just the length of, you know, you can be at work for a very long time, and you are not necessarily working very hard, but she really works hard. And she has that attention to detail. But for me, that's not the most important thing that Barbara has done. It is the work ethic that Barbara brought to the room. The integrity with which she approaches issues, but also the concern for the greater good. What does this mean for us as a country, for the communities to be together, for the development of this country? Of course, you'll be talking about the development of journalism, but what is journalism for if it is not for the development of the community? Barbara, thank you very much. I mean, there are very few people in the world that impact society as much as, and I'm serious about this, as much as Barbara has impacted society. You see, being the editor-in-chief of the biggest media house in the country, you actually set the tone. This country has over 300 radio stations. But where do they get the content? All those talk shows, where do they get the content? What are they discussing? Up to about 90% of their discussion is from the content that has been directed, guided by our media channels. I know it's an effort of very many people, but being editor-in-chief, it means you are in charge, you are controlling all that. And speaking as a Ugandan, we are most grateful to you, Barbara. I don't want to give a long speech. Barbara always blesses people from the heart. With the blessing, it's called the Aaronic blessing, the one from Moses, from God to Moses to Aaron. Some call it the priestly blessing in Numbers chapter 6. So please join me, friends, to bless Barbara with the very same blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord shine his face and be be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen.
I want to congratulate you, Barbara, Kaija, on your 34 years of service to the Vision Group. We know that formally your tour of duty comes to an end, but you continue to be a part of us. 34 years of distinguished service, 16 of those undertaken as a guarantor of our editorial standards and agenda. That is no mean feat, ladies and gentlemen. In 1992, when Barbara joined the Vision Group, Uganda was just getting its first private FM radio station. Mass communication as a course at Makerere University was only 4 years old, and the pioneer students had just graduated the previous year. For Vision Group itself, all we had was a single newspaper, the New Vision. Today, Uganda has hundreds of FM radio stations. Thousands of students have gone through the journalism school in Makerere, while other universities are also now running the course with their own share of graduates. Vision Group, as you now know, has expanded into a multimedia conglomerate with dominant presence in print, broadcast, and electronic media. The New Vision, though, remains our flagship product. Technology has evolved over these years. Today we are all grappling with things like artificial intelligence. These were things that 34 years ago were not even things we dream about. Today they are defining our day-to-day lives. And through all this, Barbara has lived it. She has been at the center of this transformation and growth. For 16 years, she has diligently served as our editor-in-chief, setting the editorial tone, standards, and direction for our products. We don't tend to say this, but the truth is that many a time, media products mirror the identity and character of the editor. Even when you might have editorial guidelines and policies in place. So if the public has ever wondered why the New Vision has consistently been a sober, thoughtful, measured, professional newspaper, this is because this is what Barbara's character is exactly. And of course, I cannot overstate the aspect of integrity. Barbara has no doubt been an important cog in the New Vision wheel. She has set the standards and tone. She has trained and mentored hundreds of journalists. We know her, she's been a vicious fighter for the interests and rights of the journalists, a strong advocate of the girl child, and an enduring voice for gender parity in a field where women still tend to get the short end of the stick. I must appreciate the pragmatism of Barbara too, especially in appreciating the changing mediascape and her ability to guide the teams into adapting. In the pre-internet era, newspapers like the New Vision were the holy grail of communication, and therefore ensured a distinct relationship between editorial and commercial side of business. We used to run something called the Chinese wall. It basically meant that the right hand, call it editorial, would never know what the left hand, call it commercial, was up to. Everyone lived in their own worlds, each pursuing their own agenda. Then the internet happened. In Uganda, this was complemented with the NRM government's move to liberalize the economy, and suddenly many communication options began to sprout. Over the years, the editing function has therefore demanded more pragmatism as the fight for the share of revenue becomes more intense. It takes a skillful editor to appreciate this and still make it work without the proverbial selling their soul for 30 pieces of silver. Barbara has done this so well, and the New Vision continues to make business sense while retaining its editorial independence. We must appreciate Barbara for this. You heard in the video, there's no product that we have come up with which has not had Barbara's mind or hand in it. and most of those special projects were basically for the survival of the paper. So Barbara's quest for knowledge and appreciation of trends is mind-blowing. Whereas one might be tempted to categorize Barbara as one of the journalists of old, her zeal to keep up with the changes in the media and therefore guide us through these waves has been nothing short of admirable. So as Barbara hangs up her pen today, Barbara, you can take pride in knowing that you have set a firm foundation and prepared the next generation of editors and journalists who we are confident will sail the new vision to the safe coast of a great future. Mr. Sidney Babanga Miria, our new editor-in-chief, and the rest of the team here, you have your work cut out. As I end, those of you who know that in any gathering where I've been, if I'm chairing a meeting and Barbara is present and there's a prayer, it is Barbara I always ask one to say the prayer. And this is deliberate because Barbara's prayers are really strong prayers. So Barbara, we're going to miss our prayer warrior, but we wish you all the best. God bless you. Thank you.
I want to say that Barbara has added value to the organization, and in all the meetings we have, when she puts the hand like this, we say, okay, Barbara, we always listen to the wisdom. What does she have to say in that territory? And we always respect. Isn't it, Barbara? We always respect. So, she has not only been a senior person, but Barbara has been a mother also, fighting for staff. In the rooms where many of you are not, she fights because we are driven by profit for us. But she comes to moderate. You know, it's a very good thing. Very, very good thing. I have been talking about 500 staff, all procurement officers in government this morning, and stores people. And I've told them to be impactful. That when you leave, like the way Barbara is leaving, what do you leave behind? That trail, something, we must say something about somebody who has worked for 36 years. This year, I am making 30 years in government service. 30 years. I started working with the president in 1996. Strange. I was just 2 years after high school. It's tough. But I want to thank you, Barbara, for the contribution that you have made, and above all, for the mentorship and the grooming you have had. I talk to people about supporting young people for the continuity of the journey. I worked somewhere and there was this commissioner in charge of these diseases like insects, caused by insects, bilharzia, something in means of health there. Ever since I went there, I had never seen a staff from that department. I'll not tell you the name, but the old man worked with the secretary. And the secretary told me he was the one holding the interest also, the office interest. Then this person, time came for him to retire. And then he came to me. I was still a young man, and said, you know, Mr. Damlira, it takes so many years for government. He spoke very good English, not mine of Nakase. He said, that's very many years for government to train a person like me. So, although I've clocked 60 years, you can't lose me. I said, why? So I need a contract for at least 4 years, and I prepare somebody to come and take over me. Then I said, hey, okay. You go to the PS. So he went to the PS. And the PS referred him back to me. Because now I was looking for the right words. I was buying time. So he came to me. And I told him, okay, you have had, he had worked for 35 years. I said, you have had 35 years to prepare for this moment. You have children? He said, yes. I said, okay. Now that you made it deliberate, not to train and prepare anybody to do your work, even to do it better, you must actually leave. You are going to be in a crisis. I said, yeah. Out of the crisis, there shall emerge somebody. And the man thought I was joking. You see, I said, actually, you must leave. Who do I hand over to? I said, me. But you're not a medical doctor. I said, I'm an administrator. Hand over to me. And then the person started running around. No, I'm not ready to leave. At least I need like a month to hand over. Because there was some money still on the budget to complete. I said, no. So I went to my boss. I said, I want to cause a crisis today. The person who is creating a crisis cannot be the one to benefit from that crisis. Anyway, the person left. The crisis was created. But government appointed, advertised, and you got another person. And now I'm told that the unit, the department grew. Because they didn't want anybody to come into the space. I want to thank you, Barbara, for mentoring a big team. For preparing for this moment when you leave, you go outside and you see New Vision flourish. I'm glad Mr. Kakande has come here. Can you stand? Does everybody know you? You see? We've done a lot of work with him over the years. So he leaves, he comes back, the thing is still going on. And I told Sydney, I whispered to him, I said, if you have had a best friend, replace that best friend with Barbara. Did I? Consult Barbara wherever you are stuck. And Barbara support Sydney. That's what we want. That's the transition that we want. If there is anything that man will ever thank you for, is to stand with him, support him at this time. I want to thank all of you for coming. I will leave immediately if you permit me, but I want to thank staff, the staff who have worked with Barbara and supported Barbara. Barbara's work is an input of so many heads and hands. I thought we would mention that and how proud we are with you staff for standing and weathering the storm we have had over the past few years. Not us alone. Where I sit, many companies, not even public enterprises, are struggling. And we need to be innovative. We have to be innovative. think, and push ideas through. And I ask management to be receptive to new ideas, new ways of doing things. If we have been doing something for so many years or whatever, and it's not working, try something new. That's what I do. I went to St. Mary's College, Kisubi, the best school in the country. Anybody went to St. Mary's College, Kisubi? Village schools. They went to village schools. Barbara? Okay. You were a teacher in SMART. Oh, literature wasn't my thing. My hobby. Also teacher? A hobby. Yeah. So I wanted to tell you a short thing, that I studied physics, chemistry, and mathematics. So my year we didn't do very well. Not well at all. But I was done. So we ended up, many of us ended up in Chambo there, a polytechnic at the time, Uganda Polytechnic Chambo. Because somebody convinced us that to go and do a flat course in Makerere, you'd rather go and do a diploma in engineering. So I went to Chambo there, spent 2 years. But when I entered the class and looking at the kind of work we are doing, I told Sengonzi Damulira, not anybody. I talked to myself and I said, this is not what you are designed to do. I convinced myself. And I think that person traumatized me, the person who was in charge of our class. He got a contract to rehabilitate the electrical works at that polytechnic, now in Chambogo University. So that the coursework, project work, they gave us to cut. Just imagine, from St. Mary's College to Kisubi, they give you a hammer, you buy it yourself a hammer and a chisel, you must chisel lines from there up to down, then like this. We removed our shirts, we sweated, we are all dust. Then they were calling us very clever people, engineers. I said, now. So, do people get moments to talk to yourselves? So I talked to myself, I said, this is not my thing. But I stayed in class to please my mother. May her soul rest in peace, Robin Anakakande. She died, she was a presidential advisor. So I said, okay. The moment I finished like this, and I'm told you had gotten a job, the president had given me a job. So the president one time says, so you are going back to study now a degree? I said, no. So why? I said, I'm changing to economics. Sure, from engineering to economics? I said, yes. So don't be stuck in one thing. I left my colleagues in engineering. I'm sure some of them are the people who are waiting for me in the office. so please don't get stuck in one area. So even in ideas, when something is not working, do something else. MD. Find something else, and these ideas, many of them will come from junior people who you do not even expect to have ideas, but they can have very good ideas. So I want to thank you, Barbara, and congratulate. I know, Barbara, you are not leaving us. Donna has said that you are dropping the pen, but I know you are going to be with us, support us. When you are outside, is when you see many more ideas. I'm very sure you will get ideas and give them back to us. Even some of the things that you used to decline, now you might see them as working. You know, you people, us in government, I really want to talk more with the people who are not in government, because they make us better. They make us better. So equally, somebody outside the New Vision, Barbara, where you have gone, You might speak idea and say, oh, kumbe, this one I declined can work. Kumbe, what we have been doing, we have been getting it wrong. Okay? So, Barbara, I want to thank you for the time we have had with you, for the contribution you have made, and for nurturing and supporting staff. Congratulations. And we shall keep in touch, and may the good Lord support you, protect you, give you good health. Okay? Good health. So that you can invite us for your 70th, 80th, 90th birthdays, or even 100. So that you can celebrate you. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Barbara, we go back a long way with Barbara. I first met Barbara several years ago as a consultant. That's the face-to-face interaction to do a gender audit for New Vision's gender responsiveness. Little known to Barbara, I was a bit intimidated because since joining the profession, I'd always looked up to Barbara, and now I had to audit her work. But the humility with which Barbara received me as a consultant has never been lost to me to date. You see, there are several kinds of leaders in our lives that we come across. There are leaders who leave impact because of the position they hold, most likely create fear. I think we know so many of those. I could even be one of them. Don is laughing, I think I'm communicating. But Barbara is a leader of influence. Barbara touches lives. She touched my life in several ways, and I hope she's touched your lives in several ways. Barbara seeks to impact. Barbara seeks to teach. And even when we give feedback, the humility with which she receives, and as Chair said earlier, she's always willing to learn. You'd expect that being seasoned as she is, shouldn't be open to new ideas. But Barbara is very receptive to feedback. And when she didn't understand what you mean, or when she had a different perspective, she took the liberty to slowly explain her perspective and show you where you could be wrong or where you could be right. And I found that really, really amazing about Barbara. Because being editor-in-chief is such a prestigious position. You'd bypass Barbara and not know that it's Barbara Kaija. Because the name is known, but very few people know that that is Barbara behind the name. And I'm sure many of you will agree, for those of you who met Barbara after several years, there's Barbara, the name, the editor-in-chief of the Vision Group. And then there's Barbara, the person. Sometimes when you meet the two people, you can't believe it's the same person. Barbara is very down to earth. I'm sure we all know that. But she's also very firm in her leadership. Another thing is that Barbara never raised her voice. Or maybe she did. But the few times I've interacted with Barbara, the several times that she never raises her voice to command respect. I hope the people she led agree with that. Rather, her wisdom, consistency, and professionalism would nurture and inspire in the way she guided you on what to do. I think as the documentary that we didn't go to the end was indicating, and many people expressed the same sentiments, one of Barbara's greatest strengths is her meticulous attention to detail. Even you think something has passed her by, she will see it. Whether reviewing a policy document, editorial comment, strategic initiative, she approaches every assignment with diligence and precision. So for me, for the few times I worked with her, that's what I saw. I don't know what the rest of you saw. But honestly, in Barbara, we had great accomplishments as Vision Group. To me, Barbara creates space for others to contribute. And I think the story that the chair just shared wasn't in error. I think there's something I was trying to say about Barbara and about people who are stepping into Barbara's very big shoes. When it came to time to assessing someone who might take after Barbara, Barbara actually floated several names. That is rare to find in a leader. People will have one interest and say this one, or add me another contract, you know. But from the time I joined the vision board, Barbara always told us, you people, I have to leave. I have to leave. And us on the other side, like, no, you can't be leaving. No, you people, I have to leave, you know. And even when we're not prepared to let her go, she tried to prepare the rest of us. And clearly she also prepared the team to step in these footsteps. Of course, another thing I admire about Barbara is the place of God in her life. You see, journalists and God have a strange relationship, and I'm one. And Barbara demonstrated to me and others that God and journalism can work together. She put God first in everything she did. She prayed. From the time I met her, she always prayed. And when I was younger, people who started meetings with let's pray, I'm like, really? I already prayed this morning. But Barbara has made it my culture that we have to pray. We have to bless different aspects of our life. And her faith is something she doesn't merely speak about. You can see it in the grace with which she speaks, the grace in which she walks, the way she approaches her work, and never forgetting that God is present. We need God's guidance, and that is amazing. Throughout her career, she has consistently demonstrated that excellence and faith can coexist, and that servant leadership remains one of the most powerful forms of leadership. And from what everybody has said, I think that goes without saying. Of course, Barbara's legacy goes beyond the newsroom, like many people have said. As the first woman to become editor-in-chief for a major newspaper in Uganda, it has been encouraging for us women in this profession to know that yes, we can be in that position, we can lead, we can have a family and be in the newsroom, we can lead the newsroom and have a family and still have God in our lives. So Barbara, thanks for that. We've looked up to you and we've learned a lot. Some of us used to say, yes, I want kids, I know husband, I know what, but looking at Barbara and what she has been able to achieve, we started to think differently. So Barbara, I have 2 sons. Part of the credit goes to you because you showed us that it's possible. But on a very, very personal note, I remain deeply indebted to Barbara. She possibly doesn't realize that, but I wouldn't be standing here speaking to you if it wasn't for Barbara. I recall one day, 2-3 years ago, or is it 4 years, Barbara calling me. And I was always flattered when she called me. She doesn't know that. I'm like, oh, Barbara. And she was like, oh, you have my number? I'm like, yes, I still have your number. And she told me there's an opportunity to serve on the board of the Vision Group. Are you interested? I was like, me? I said, yes, you have whatever it takes. I'm like, of course I'm interested, but I don't think I'm good enough. So she says, well, it's not a given, it's competitive. So if you're interested, send through your CV. And I did. The rest is history, clearly. So Barbara, thanks for the opportunity. So sometimes people see in us things we don't see of ourselves. And Barbara saw in me the potential to be a leader, to be a board member of the Vision Group. And I'm forever indebted. And because I'm a board member of the Vision Group, I have landed many other opportunities. Of course, I've served other boards, but being a board member of the Vision Group has its own flair because of the credibility, the brand that the Vision Group bears and carries, and Barbara being one of those. Actually, at a certain point, Barbara and the Vision Group were synonymous with each other. You see Barbara, you see Vision Group. You see a brand of Vision Group, you think about Barbara. That is the kind of person she is. So Barbara, thank you so much for everything, for having faith in others, for being open, giving others opportunities, your exemplary leadership, your humility, your mentorship, and your friendship most of all. Thank you for showing us that great leaders lead with conviction, serve with humility, and honor God in all that they do. That one for me is not lost in me because my relationship with God is quite different. But Barbara showed me you can do it differently. I hope, Sydney, you have learned that bit. Barbara, may this new chapter of your life be filled with abundant joy. May you get the rest you seek. Because as chief news editor, I don't know if you've ever rested, really. I'm sure even at Christmas you'll leave, someone like Don will call you. A minister will call you for a headline gone wrong. For even a true story that they don't want out there. And you've handled it very diligently, very calmly. No one would even ever know Vision is in crisis. Because Barbara remains calm. Even if everybody is calling all over the place and bashing the Vision group, she remained calm and steadfast.
Download the app on App Store or Google Play Store now. Vision Digital Experience, the future of media.
New Vision TV. Stream smart, stream New Vision.